When you're a stranger, faces look ugly.
A number of very important recordings were released in 1967. Aretha Franklin released her classic rendition of Respect along with her album I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You. In a single year, the Beach Boys released 2 new albums. The year was bursting at the seams with soon-to-be famous releases. The Doors, Rolling Stones, and Pink Floyd all released new music at this time. Naturally, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band from the Beatles is perhaps the most famous of them all. Sgt. Pepper's, an album that perfectly encapsulated the time, was always going to outsell its competitors in terms of sales and accolades. It even surpassed 2 other Beatles albums, with the Beatles and Abbey Road, to become the best-selling record of the decade. This album is still present in record collections and rankings of the best albums ever made. Amidst those vinyl racks and glowing lists, you may probably locate The Doors' 1967 self-titled first album, one of the greatest albums ever made by one of the greatest bands of all time. Even with the album's widespread praise at the time of its release and for the next 50 years, the Doors were never able to match the cultural powerhouse that was Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. However, it is almost pointless to compare any musician to the Beatles. Along with producing some of the Doors' most well-known singles, such as Break On Through, To the Other Side, and Light My Fire, the album also had a little-known but significant effect on Sgt. Pepper's rise to fame. The Doors were one of the bands mentioned by composer Paul McCartney when he once listed the alter egos he wished to channel. Sgt. Pepper's was created with the intention of the Beatles to do a bit of B.B. King, a bit of Stockhausen, a bit of Albert Ayler, a bit of Ravi Shankar, a bit of Pet Sounds, a bit of the Doors. The Beatles had already begun work on Sgt. Pepper's when The Doors was published, but they bought many copies of the album, and it eventually influenced their own songs. Jim Morrison served as an influence for McCartney. Legendary inspire legends. It seems sense that the Doors were a source of inspiration for Sgt. Pepper's, given that psychedelia took center stage among off-kilter instrumentation and other musical influences. Although it can be difficult to identify specific allusions and parallels since the record is so expansive and vibrant, a magical mashup of inspirations, it is impossible to deny Morrison's influence as well as the drama and grandeur of his own work. After the release of both albums and the subsequent dissolution of the Beatles, McCartney developed a deeper appreciation for the psych rock group. Following Morrison's passing in 1971, the group looked for new members, and McCartney temporarily joined the group as their bass player. The Doors and Sgt. Pepper's, both famous in their own right, would withstand the test of time and rank among the all-time great albums. The former was a vital component of the counterculture it charted, even if the later would go on to become the record that defined a generation.